Okay, attention, top. Kyung-yi. We've been talking about this outer forearm, inner forearm. So let's extend that a little bit. Let's look at wedging blocks to go through that. Now, the high grades, you'll know you have an outer forearm wedging block and an inner forearm wedging block. So, just have a minute thinking of, in fact, let's do a few. Jump in. Step in forwards. Let's do a outer forearm wedging block. Hana. Two. Set. Note. Service spotlight on you, Sam. Keep going. Keep going. All right, so Sam, what I want you to do, I want you to think about how, keep going. When you're bringing that chamber together, what direction is it traveling? Now, if somebody was to attack you with two hands, the likelihood is by performing it that way, you're going to use the outer forearm of your leading hand to block both arms. So this is going to be a tricky one for me to show without another partner, and Bob's got no arms, so I can't use him. But what you're going to try and remember is, okay, Sam, thank you, excellent. Okay, let me try and explain it without an opponent. Okay, just so wedge and block, you know, it's a good separator. You know, you can use this to get in and separate hands, separate people. You know, it's just one of those techniques. Whatever your applications are, you know, you're separating something. So the first thing is, let's take a grab, a throat grab, a neck grab. If I bring my chamber up to the side, okay, and swing round and perform the block, the hand that's doing all the work is this. And the reality is I could catch both of those hands, okay, and move both hands to the side. So I'm not really performing a wedge from that point of view. So what I want you to do, hands from your hip, okay, I want you to twist, okay, but as you twist, bring your hands up the front of you, okay, not up to the side, up the front of you, and then use your hip twist to punch them outwards, okay. Now you're forming a wedge, okay. Don't let your hands overcross, okay. You're trying to imagine this shape here, okay, is a wedge, and that's now wedging up into whatever I need to separate, whether it be two hands or two people or whatever else. I'm driving that in, forwards, upwards and away, into something I've got to get into a tight space. By doing that, I can get myself caught up. So keep your hands on top of one another, create this wedge shape, and drive that up the middle, okay? It's when it gets up to the sort of top of your forehead level, you're going to drive your hips down and drive the hands outwards and forwards. So let me do this from the side so you can see. This is a forward action. So we talked about the outer forearm, and we're extending the elbow. We're using the triceps. We've already gone through that, so now apply that to this thing now. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here. We're going to drive this wedge forwards and upwards. As we go forwards and upwards, we're keeping the hips back until we're about to explode out into the separation, and then we separate. Okay, so again, come up, hands on top of one another, keep them tight, create the wedge, and then execute the block. Hence the wedging block. Okay, so let's have a few goes at that. It's quite awkward to come up the side. Ultimately, some of you will have really good hip flexibility. You can face forwards and rotate your hips nearly 90 degrees, which is great. And you won't find that too tricky. If you're, as Craig says, you're a little bit limited on your flexibility for whatever reason, then what you've got to do is you've got to let your hips come around a little bit. Take a little bit of relief off that. Let the hands now drive up comfortably so that you can still execute good hip twist at the downward application of the wedge. And remember what I said, that body drop, hand and foot timing, then it's drop as that front foot lands. So that's the outer forearm block. So we're moving away from our body, remember. We're extending the elbow. We're moving away from our body. Now we're going to look at inner forearm block. Inner forearm block, we are flexing our elbow. Okay, we're flexing. We're bringing our hand closer to ourselves. Okay, by flexing. So in a wedging block, we won't do it. We'll do it in walking stance, but we'll step backwards. For obvious reasons, when you want to bring your hands from a wide position back in again, it's really designed for you to step backwards. And the way I try and explain this is an outer forearm block. You want to execute an outer forearm block in advance of the grab. They are about to grab. You want to hit that early. You want to get up, boom, and you want to hit them in the forearms, hit them in the shoulders, hit them early before they got hold of you. And you're advancing, you're stepping forwards in that. Okay, so that's the extension of the elbow, the outer forearm here, hit them early. Inner forearm is the opposite. So now, let's assume we've been hit, boom, we've got a grab. Okay, the hands are now engaged wherever they've got hold. So now we've got to step backwards, but this time, instead of coming up close and moving away, you're going to come up wide. You're going to come up away from you. Bring the hands in the same fashion, bring the hands together, take them up the middle, create that wedge, but this time take them further away, okay? You can find you can even engage in striking under the chin, okay? Creating a weakness, a break in the technique, distraction under the chin, to then step back, and this time you're now pulling away, outwards, flexing the elbow, and driving the hands to the side, not forwards and outwards, but to the side and backwards. And that's going to force the arms out that have already grabbed you. So let's try this going backwards. So we had forwards coming up, close to you, and then away. Going backwards, we're going to come up a long way away and pull in. Let's go backwards. Hana! Same applies. Let them come up the middle. Don't bring them to the side and swing around. Let them come up the middle, turn your hips around if you need a bit of relief in the torso, but still try and get some hip twists. Just checking again, just be careful not to overcross them, okay? If you go too wide, you run the risk of the tops of the hands, where my thumbs are, catching the object. You want that to be as narrow as possible. Think about your wedge in your door. Yes, that wedge, if that wedge is too wide, it's not going to get under the door. You've got to get into that door. Good. Keep going. So the hands going out and coming in. They're going out, they're striking. Imagine you're striking on your way out underneath somebody's chin and pulling in into the arms on the way back. So the question is, which way round? Which way round do the hands go? When they're this close together, it's really, you gotta be fussy to find a good reason why one is in front of the other. Hence the reason why you always used to have this problem with inner forearm and outer forearm. They're so close together, they just, surely there was more to it from a point of view, an application point of view. There was more to it. So in this case, I'd be really picking through bones to justify which one's in front of the other. But if you imagine now, if I'm in a walking stance and I want to separate two attacking objects, over my leading leg, okay, over my leading leg, I'm going to have lots of structure. I'm going to, as I land, I'm leading my leading arm has the benefit of all that kinetic energy, okay. So there's an argument that already has an advantage. My leading arm already has the advantage of kinetic energy applied to that step. So with that thought in mind, this hand going the opposite way has lost that, doesn't have that kinetic energy. In fact, the arm going in this direction is very weak. If I had somebody stood here now and just applied a little bit of pressure at about 2:30, 2 o'clock, my stance is weak, it's going to collapse. So it's a weak place to drive some power to. So there's two things to this. The first thing is, have your backhand, your reverse hand, behind. Gives it a little bit more distance to get a little bit more punch in it, a little bit more snap in it. Okay, gives it an advantage to gain a bit more, okay, by having that behind. So let that be behind. So that gets to punch out. And equally, use your reverse hip, okay? Obverse hip and reverse hip, we haven't gone through, perhaps another session, if not, we might get a chance to finish off it, but reverse hip, imagine in a reverse punch. That's the reverse hip here, okay? So the reverse hip, obverse hip twist will be obverse hip, getting into the punch, reverse hip twist into the punch. So if you think of it like that, that simplifies it a little bit. So not only are we going to give this reverse hand more distance to travel, to gain a bit more speed, a bit more energy, we're now going to give it the hip to welly behind it as well. So we're using this hip to really force that one out. Okay? This one, as I say, it's already got kinetic energy and structure over the top of that, which is great. The other one, it's going to lack a little bit, so we've got to give it a bit of distance and the reverse hip twist to put behind it. So let's have a go at that. Leading leg, leading hand. Right leg forwards, hana! You got the same applied going backwards. If I now get into a walking stance, so the question is, does the same apply going backwards? Is there a lead hand? The same thing applies going backwards, but obviously in reverse. Okay, so now my back leg, my leg that's stepping backwards, that has kinetic energy on its side. So in this case, my right leg stepping backwards, my right hand is going to have the advantage, yes? If I want to grab hold and pull somebody, I'd pull them by stepping back with my right leg. So my hip is going to drive that. So that's already there, that's already got that advantage. So when you step backwards, you've got to do the opposite. So your hips are now going to go over your leading leg. So your back hand is already in front, is behind, because that's the one that has the advantage. Your leading hand is in front, because that's got to gain some speed, it's got to gain some distance, and we've got to use the hip to get that punch in it. So we try and balance the technique out. If you any twin technique, you will have an imbalance. Whatever that technique is, there will be an imbalance. So you want to go, okay, the mechanics of movement will give one or the other hand an advantage. So let me apply methodology with hip twist, with breath control, to then build the other one up to help create some balance.